Hey guys, and welcome to a new video where I'm gonna go over my character I played the last few days and gonna explain a little bit about the character. I will not make like a super in-depth guide because I feel like this character is very niche and not a lot of players really want to get this together because it's a lot of things you need to get together to make this work, and it's also not that cheap. So first I will show you a wave 30 simulacrum, how this went. I did that yesterday in a clip, and then I will do a normal map showcase. So this is the wave 30 simulacrum we did yesterday. I will speed it up a little bit. So as you can see, we can basically just stand still and cast our spark. There's Omniphobia spawning. I don't really want to kill Omniphobia because I have Occultist explosions, so I want to stack them together and then kill basically both at the same time together with some mobs to get some extra damage in. So in this layout, the best position to get the bosses in is the ship, because the spark can't really travel that far, so you get a lot of hits and therefore a lot of poison damage. So let's speed this up a little more, because that's... never mind, it's going actually pretty decent speed. So the boss damage... yeah, it's like a poison build, so the boss damage is, in my opinion, kinda yikes. But, I mean, it's also a wave 30 courses. So I'm trying to get him into the ship again because I can do way more damage there. Alright, and there you have wave 30 simulacrum. So now I will do a quick map showcase. I did choose to go for a Minotaur map with bosses are possessed. So you can see that the tanking capabilities of this build are definitely very good. And then for mapping, you basically just run and right click. Doing normal mapping, you can't really die on this build. There are a few things that can kill you, and it's degens basically. So really high ignites can kill you because you're not ailment immune, but you have 60% reduced ignite duration on you. So it has to be a really insane ignite to kill you. The maximum hit taken of this build with Molten Shell up is 110k. Yeah, that was a really bad Legion spawn, to be honest. Could have been way better. When it comes to bosses, you can just face tank. Like everything that is not like a super high degen, you can just face tank. Then you always wanna make sure to use your Withering Step, because that applies to withered stacks. Right, that's it for the map showcase. So now I'm going over the character and how I built it. So it's a Poison Spark. There's one very important item that is a must-have for the build, and that's Ashes of the Star, because it gives you 30% to quality of all skill gems, and with the alt quality Phantasmal Spark, that means 100% of your lightning damage is converted to chaos. So without the amulet you will not have the conversion, and without the conversion you basically can't really play Poison Spark. So as a weapon I choose to go with a Nebulous, because the only upgrade you could make from a Nebulous would be a super insanely rolled like +2 Malevolence Aura effect, Chaos dot multi, suffix 1, that would be like basically hundreds of exalts. Then for a helmet I went with a synthesized Mind Cage. The Hubris Circlet would obviously be a little bit more energy shield, but I feel like you don't really need more energy shield. And this one I found myself, like the base, and then I crafted it. The crafting process, you basically have to spam essences for the mana reservation of skills until you get like decent suffixes, and then you have to do suffix cannot be changed and veiled chaos orb to get a unveil. Then you wanna block a mod that you don't want and unveil it. And the Aegium's mod is actually not too hard to hit, but for me I got 4 times the projectile gems and 4 times melee gems before I got the AoE gems the first time. So it took me like 15 attempts. That means like 30x to hit the AoE gems. So it's not that cheap to hit it if you are unlucky. If you are lucky, you can get it in like 10 tries tops. Then for Amulet, I already talked about it. It's Ashes of the Stars. It's a 30% qual, is really important. The reservation efficiency you can go for like 15 plus basically. And we allocate Charisma for the mana reservation efficiency and curse effect. For our shield we use Aegis Aurora for the block and replenish energy shield by 2% of armor when you block. That basically makes you immortal or almost immortal against hits. As you could see in the simulacrum wave 30, you could just stand there and face tank everything basically. Then for our chest, Incandescent Heart is basically one of the best chests for CI chaos builds, because you convert your elemental damage, you get extra elemental as extra chaos, and then it gives you 25% of elemental damage from hits taken as chaos. That basically means 25% more elemental resistance. Then as rings I choose to go self-poison. You can also drop the Winterweave and not go for self-poison. So Icewing Orbit, I went for a all elemental resistance implicit, because the normal implicit is physical damage to attack, so it's really bad, and we are kinda resistant starving. Winterweave I did the same, all resistance, because again we are resist starving, and Winterweave is for the self-chill. So how self-chill works is, normally if you are chilled you get reduced action speed, and with Winterweave and self-chilling that comes from the amulet I will go over in a second, not the amulet, the jewel, it will increase your action speed. And action speed basically multiplies all your movement speed modifiers, cast speed modifiers, and everything you have. So you can also go with another variant where you don't use Winterweave and don't self-chill, but I really like the self-chilling, so I went with that. Then when it comes to boots, I decided to go with Voidwalkers. The +2 AoE gems doesn't really matter. I just found them like that and I was like, oh yeah, okay, +2 AoE gems, I take that. So the main reason we take Voidwalker is because it gives you dexterity, and we really need dexterity, and it gives you cheap 5 Pierce. So the other method of getting Pierce that would be an upgrade to Voidwalkers would be a Hunter influenced boot with elevated Pierce. That would also be 5. You can also go with the normal +2 Pierce from Hunter modifiers. It shouldn't feel too bad. So if you wanna save some money, you go either Voidwalker or with Hunter modifier 2 Pierce. Then when it comes to gloves, those ones are actually insane and really you will not get them. But the main thing we are looking for is the triple curse. So temp chance, vulnerability, despair. Those are actually on the market. And they are not even expensive, they are like 3x or something. Then when it comes to belt, my belt is really bad. I needed fire resistance and strength. Flask refactoration is also kinda nice. And the prefix I didn't do yet. And yeah, like the reason we are going with a Crusader belt is obviously because of energy shield percent implicit. So you can push your energy shield to like 5k or something if you have the good prefixes. I didn't get them yet, and I really need the strength and the fire resistance, so I stick with this one for now. You can also go for a headhunter, obviously, because like projectile skills and stuff and cast speed scales really good with headhunter. So if you do map choosing or simulacrum, you can use the headhunter. I didn't use it in the Web 30 clip we watched earlier, but it's for sure an upgrade. Then for flasks, it's really important to get the right modifiers on your flasks, because you need the 7 charges when you are hit by an enemy, and then you want the enchant used when charges reach full. The suffixes are always like your own decision what you wanna do. So I went with reduce effect of curses on you during flask effect. Here we have again only 6 charges. I went out of alterations to craft the flask, so I stuck with the 6. I stood with the 6 charges. And then obviously bleed immunity, we really need that, because degen is bad for the build and bleed is one type of degen. Then again 7 charges on the Rubai flask with elemental resistance during flask effect. Then the Topaz flask with 7 charges when you're hit by an enemy, and the craft reduced mana cost of skills during flask effect. We really need that. I will go over mana cost and stuff in a second. And then the Quicksilver flask with 7 charges when you're hit by an enemy and increased armor during flask effect. So the best thing would be if you have like the bleed immunity on the Quicksilver and the armor on the Sapphire, because you have the Sapphire for sure 100% up and the Quicksilver not for sure, so the increased armor is way better on there. Then when it comes to links, we are basically using Phantasmal Spark. That's really important that you get the alt quality. Then Divergent Inspiration Support is also kinda important, because Spark costs a lot of money. Like in baseline, when you don't invest anything into a mana cost reduction, it costs like 94 mana. Then we use Awakened Void Manipulation, Awakened Unbound Ailments, Awakened Added Lightning, and Awakened Deadly Ailments. As our auras in the hands, we use Determination, Enlighten, Malevolence, and Discipline. I obviously went into the gloves with that, because I have the +4 aura gems, so my defensive auras are really high. Then for our second aura setup, we again use Enlighten level 3, no Enlighten level 4 required. Purity of Ice only level 20 needed, because we get extra levels from the item and the amulet. Then we go with Anomalous Defiance Banner. That's really expensive actually, it's like 8x or something. And it's not really that big of a deal. But since we have the Amulet, high quality gems are really strong. So this one gives you 25% increased armor. And without it, we wouldn't reach like 52k armor. And the higher armor you get for Aegis Aurora, the stronger you are, basically. So then we use Divergent Tempest Shield. That one you kinda want to get. It's also kinda expensive. It's 6 exalts. The reason for that is you need to be block capped, and we don't invest anything into block from our tree. So you kinda, if you want 75% spell block, you need Divergent Tempest Shield. Then in our boots we go with Wild Molten Shell, increased duration support, Val Haste, and Anomalous Withering Step. And again we use the alt quality because alt quality is really strong with the amulet. And what Anomalous does, it increases the withered debuffs you get from using it. So with a level 20 core you get 12 withered stacks, and the max is 15, so you almost get max instantly, and that's really strong. Then in our shield we use Flame Dash with Arcane Surge and Anomalous Blood and Sand, because that gives you 50% projectile speed while in sand stance, and projectile speed is really nice for Spark. As a helm enchant you kinda want Spark 3 additional projectiles, but after spending 20x in Gift of the Goddess and running it myself, I decided to just use the projectile speed for now, because you can't really get a helmet like this with the enchant already, because the aura effect is really rare on a decent base, and no one will enchant it. So yeah, you kinda have to enchant them yourself if you want an enchant. Then we use Cast on Earth Portal, the standard softcore link, and a clarity as high level as you can, basically, to sustain your Spark. So as you can see, standing in my hideout, I can totally sustain my Spark now. Spark costs 15 mana. I still went with the reduced mana cost of skills, because sometimes if you use Withering Step and Molten Shell and stuff, you kinda lose mana. So when it comes to the passive tree, I invested a lot into mana cost. That's why I said like you need the inspiration and stuff. So I have reduced mana cost of skills while on full energy shield on here. And I also went into reduced mana cost of skills on the passive tree by taking Tremor Node and the Mana Mastery reduced mana cost of skills. Without that, it's not possible to sustain the Spark cost. So other than that, we take a large thread of OP to get the Cleansing Blows and Divine Shield. You need Cleansing Blows to make best use out of Aegis Aurora. Then we take the Elemental Divine Judgment with the Elemental Mastery, increased effect of non-damaging elements, just to get a higher effect of the self-chill. So in maps we are currently running on 24% self-chill. With 4 more levels I would go for a medium cluster. I have that one here. With Astonishing Affliction and Inspired Oppression to get to 28% self-chill. So the highest you can get is 30%, and yeah, I can't really reach that with the current tree. So then we take the Aura Effect cluster with the Mana Reservation, with the mastery, auras from your skill have increased effect on you. We take a large cluster with Inspired Oppression, Prismatic Heart, and Widespread Destruction. If you can fix your resistance otherwise, you could also go for a Chaos Cluster, it's a little bit more damage. Then for the medium, we need, this is a must-have, Septic spells, because chance to poison on hit with spell damage is really hard to get. There are only a few ways to get global chance to poison on hit, and with this cluster setup, it also gives me cast speed and damage over time multi, so it's a really good way to get your chance to poison on hit with spell damage kept. For the second node, I went with Circling Oblivion. It's increased damage over time and duration of ailments. Really nice. Then I have a small mana reservation cluster with 35% increased effect and some ES. The regen doesn't do anything for us, and some strength. I only spec 2 for now because I'm not high level enough to use the third. Then we need the dexterity if we are not using Headhunter. A hazardous reach with corrupted blood implicit. That's the reason why our spark shoots in a circle around us and not just in front of us. Then we take the damage over time cluster here with increased skill effect duration and increased duration of ailments on enemies mastery. We take the energy shield nodes with the energy shield mastery discipline mana reservation efficiency. We take the increased effect of Withered because that's super strong, and the chaos mastery increased effect of Withered. Then over here we have a Watcher's Eye. That's also really important to get. The determination roll doesn't have to be max, but the chance to block spell damage has to be max until you have the Tempest shield on level 20, then you can have like 6%. So this Watcher's Eye is not even that expensive, it's like 2x or something. Determination and discipline both with the block roll. Then for our second large cluster we use the same setup again, Prismatic Heart, Inspired Oppression and Widespread Destruction. And the same mediums with Septic spells, Circling Oblivion, Septic spells and Circling Oblivion. For our jewels we use Replica Hot-Headed because we are self-chill, and Replica Hot-Headed gives you more cast speed and movement speed while you are chilled. That's really nice. We use a Golden Rule. That basically makes it possible for you to get self-chilled because poisons you inflict is reflected to you, and with the ring you are chilled when you are poisoned. So that's the whole mechanic behind it. Then we go with Whispers of Doom to get an additional curse, because we want to run the triple curse with Temp Chains, Vulnerability and Despair. We use CI to get Chaos Immune. We use the Aura cluster with Mana Reservation Efficiency of Skills, and we use the Chance to Poison on hit with Spell Damage cluster up here. That's basically the only way to get like spell poison chance other than global spell poison chance. With the mastery, poisons you inflict on non-poisoned enemies deal 300% increased damage. That's really important for mapping. If you do bosses, you can just drop this and go for either poison duration or poisons you inflict deal damage faster. And then as last nodes we take the life and energy shield nodes here. For our Ascendancy we go obviously for an Occultist because we get the beautiful explosions from the Profane Bloom. We also have the Malediction for an additional curse and the curse effect. Then we take Void Beacon for the minus chaos resistance of enemies, and Withering Presence for more chaos damage and a little bit more withered uptime. You can also drop this and go for Vile Bastion if you want the even more defense route, but I feel like you don't really need more defense, so I went with Vile Bastion. So yeah, that's basically it for this character. I will not develop it further because I kinda don't like poison builds. I gotta be honest. I don't like damage over time builds in general. Like, damage over time is nothing for me. I want the big hit. I want the boss to scream after I hit him, not to decay over time. I don't like poison builds in general. So yeah, I went with this approach because I thought like, yeah, super tanky, you can do simulacrum and shit, but yeah, it's just not for me. I want the big hits. So quick disclaimer, whoever made it to this part in the video, my next character will be an omniscient character again, but this time with a spell. So if you wanna see that, come to my stream. I will link that in the description. You can also ask me anything on there, and if you like the video, thumbs up please. Think about subscribing. I do only PoE content, and thanks for watching and have a good one.